I'm Justy. Joining me as always is our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson, the man who knows everything that there is to know about tech.
Um,
Price, price of iPhones. I would, with everything that's going on with the trade wars and they're on again and they're off again and that and all this kind of stuff, I would not want to be an Apple fanboy in the States.
I would not want to be a lot of things in the States at the moment. An Apple fanboy, though, is certainly one of them. I mean, there has been. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a moment. Usually you've got it on. I'm going to put mine on,
Okay.
right? Because I'm due. I'm due a conspiracy theory at this stage. So during the week, we had Donald Trump came out and announced tariffs on every country in the world. He had his giant board, and he's like, the following countries are getting these tariffs, and very clear. What wasn't clear was how he actually came to the numbers on them. That's a whole other discussion. Put it this way, it was not scientific. Uh, of course, the markets did what the market does. Markets like stability.
Mm-hmm.
Markets like, people to be chill. Of course, everybody freaked out. The market collapsed. Well, yeah, let's call it collapsed. A lot of people were calling it Orange Monday, which I thought was hilarious. I thought that
I
was
didn't
good.
hear that. Orange Monday. That's
Yeah,
brilliant. Go on.
that was good. And of course, we heard that tariffs were being put on uninhabited islands in the Pacific that are they only have
Mm.
penguins on them, so of course they're going to have a trade deficit. All these little things. And of course, the market does what the market does. It starts running on fear. People start selling off. The market dips. The price of shares goes down. A couple days later, Trump goes, do you know what? I mean, I've made my point. How's about I lift all these tariffs for 90 days? That's all. You're on a ticking clock, guys. Come to us and let's talk. And
However,
it's red meat to his base. He gets to see everybody in the world coming to him. He gets to play the big man.
yeah.
And I would say that a lot of very smart people, a lot of very smart, wealthy people made an awful lot of money.
Now, to concentrate on tech with the on off and all that kind of stuff, now he's on 10%. The one exception is China. 125% tariff on China. Of course, China was where a lot of electronics are made, which are imported into the
Hmm.
States. The most famous one, possibly, being an iPhone. Okay. Now, I was just doing a few wee numbers on this, all right, just to give you an example. Okay. If you are an American citizen, all right, if the 125% tariff is applied to imports from China, that will put your basic iPhone, which today costs just under a grand, up to 2 grand. That's for the basic iPhone. That's not the Pro or the Plus or the da da da, the bigger, the better, the whatever. That's for the standard current iPhone, 2 grand. MacBook Pro, great laptop. Always say it's not worth 2 grand. Hey, guess what? Next week it's going to be 4 grand
Oh,
if the tariff applies. Now, this is in the USA only. It's not going to affect us here in Ireland because all of those Apple things are coming in from China into Ireland and we don't have any kind of that kind of tariff. So it's not going to affect us. But my God, can you imagine kind of being in the States? Ah,
well, that is something to keep track of then when you log on to the Apple Store over the next few days. Just see
mm,
what the prices they're listing are on the .com, not the .ie. I mean, we know that Apple has been circumventing the tariffs or preparing for them earlier in the week. They flew out 5 loaded cargo planes from India because iPhones are also made in India and Vietnam. Vietnam actually at one point had a very hefty tariff put on it because it was seen as a backdoor for China to get to the American market. Now, I don't see that on the um, current tariff list. I think at the time that we're speaking, everybody is getting 10%, and let's make a deal. I think is the thinking or the rhetoric anyway coming out of Washington. Um, so yeah, Apple also at the center of a discussion about okay, well look, let's start making those iPhones great again. Let's bring that manufacturing back to the
Well,
States.
that's what I heard. They're going to invest something like 500 billion over the next 4 years in manufacturing in the States. But apparently, it's not. That sentence sounds in English quite straightforward. Yes, we're going to invest 500 billion in manufacturing in the States. You think, great, they make their iPhones in America, no problems. But apparently, that's not the case.
Well, they're not talking about device manufacturing. They're talking about chip manufacturing. They're talking about Apple Silicon, and they're also talking about data centers. That's what their investment is going to be: chips
Hmm.
and data centers. Chips, of course, being such a rarefied commodity these days in the when it comes to AI, it makes sense to control your own supply chain when it comes to chip fabrication. That's just common sense. I don't think anyone would begrudge them. I think if Trump wasn't in power, the same thing would be happening.
Hmm.
It's when you look at devices. Okay, we talked about what devices will cost, like the MacBook and the iPhone, based on the tariffs. Okay. However, there's a couple of very, very important things that have to be borne in mind. If iPhone manufacturing is brought back to the States, you're going to have to start paying people US money. And when I say US money, I'm not talking about dollars. I'm talking about expectations within the labor market. I'm talking about minimum wages. I'm talking about benefits. I'm talking about all the things that multinationals like Apple either have to provide or be seen to
Yeah.
provide, even if they don't want it. Um, to the point that US Trade Secretary, I think it's Howard Lutnick is his name, was on Fox News saying, you know what? I mean, maybe we don't see Americans just pushing screws into iPhones all day. Maybe what we'll see is automation, and Americans will be employed through their trade craft to actually be responsible for the upkeep of these robots, which is actually a gag from The Simpsons in the 90s. But there you
We,
go.
we'll see what happens with it. I think it's going to be very interesting when we roll around to September, because that's traditionally when Apple will announce the new iPhones. And of course, when they're making the announcement, they also give the price. So I
Yeah.
wonder what, however, God knows how it's going to pan out over the summer, but I wonder what they do with pricing. And even though, as I've always said, Apple make terrific products, but they are completely overpriced. Okay. Apple's margin, I'm shocked to hear this. I didn't think it was this high. 46% margin. That's the difference between what it costs to make and what they sell it for. 46% margin. All right. It's crazy. So they could be in a position to soak up a lot of that kind of tariff and keep the price the same to keep their market share. But I don't think that they will.
They won't, and they
It
won't
may
for a
even be too
couple of
big.
very good reasons. Well, I mean, they won't because the shareholders won't take it.
That's true.
You buy a share in Apple, you're expected a return. You
Yep.
don't want to hear, oh, by the way, our costs have gone up. You don't want to hear it.
No. What's my dividend? That's the only thing
Exactly.
that counts. How much are you
That's
giving
it.
me?
And if I'm not seeing cash money back, well, you're gone. Let's
I'm
find
gone.
somebody else that can do the job.
Exactly. Anyway, Apple are the only ones. Razer, who do really high-end gaming laptops, have announced a pause on sales into the States just to see what happens. And Nintendo Switch 2, I believe, have done similar as well. So, listen, it's an ongoing, very fluid situation, as is anything to do with Donald Trump. So we'll just see what happens. Everything we're talking about today, we're talking about on Thursday, kind of lunchtime, which is when we are recording. Other news this week, Niall, Dublin Airport. Have you noticed when you're coming into land, or probably when you're taking off, that just to the north of the airport, I always think that it's like a lake or a mass of water or something like that. And it's not. It's a field, a very large field, full of solar panels.
Yeah.
And it's been set up specifically to power the airport, because their goal is in the next 5 years that 20% of the energy for Dublin Airport will come from renewable sources. So all of these solar panel farms that are located beside the airport will be used fairly quickly to power the airfield. So you can imagine like all of the lights and everything that they have on the runway. I mean, they look pretty and like a Christmas tree and all that kind of stuff. But when you kind of think, yeah, but when you think like somebody's got to see that from like 6 miles away as they're coming into land or something like that, they're really powerful lights, like, you know. So all of those are going to be run by the solar panels. Any excess will be used in the terminal. And then they had other plans for, what was it? I can't remember. Anyway, they've got more plans for it in 5 years' time. However, Dublin Airport aren't the only one. Cork Airport, all right. Cork, as we all know, is the real capital of Ireland and way more intelligent and clever than anyone in Dublin.
As they will always say.
They are also building a solar farm to power their airport. And what they're doing is they're using the solar panels as a roof over the car park.
Ah.
Isn't that a clever idea? So, grand, you keep the cars cool, dry, whatever, all right? And the power from the sun will power the lights of the airport. I think it's genius. Bravo!
Well done, Cork.
Next story this week is Minority Report, one of our favourite movies.
Do you know what? There was a time we didn't go a week without talking about it. And do you know why we don't anymore?
Because
it all came to pass.
It all happened.
It's just what we deal with now.
I know.
And now we've got another aspect of Minority Report. I suppose the core concept.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know the details on it. Hit me up at pre-crime.
Well, just a pre-crime is what they called it in the movie. And essentially the movie is all about pre-crime police force who stop crimes before they take place. And if I'm not, it's ages since I've seen it. But Tom Cruise plays one of these police officers and he is charged with a crime that he will commit next week. Of murder or something like that. And hence and everything goes on. They're doing this for real. For real in the UK, just across the water. They're not calling it pre-crime, they're calling it Homicide Prediction Project. Snappy.
HPP.
Basically what they're doing is they're taking data from police, they're taking data from prisons, they're taking data from the probation services.
They're taking data from the dogs, they're taking data from the cats.
Bravo. From up to 500 million people they're using for this data experiment. They say that it is for research purposes only to help them understand the risk of people on probation who will go on to commit serious violence. Okay. Why would you do research into anything? Because you're planning on using it.
Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately.
I don't know. I just think that's creepy. And as you say, like everything in that movie, I'm going to watch Minority Report again over the weekend, actually. Just do you know what it's like? It's like watching Back to the Future 2. Do you know where they went into the future? And you're kind of going, okay, flat screen TV, we have that. And wireless this, we have that, and so on.
Gambling despot rules the town.
Despot rules the Biff Tanner is Donald Trump. Oh, man, you are fast. You are fast. What else have we got going on this week? More AI jobs for Ireland.
Yeah. The happy face of AI, Anthropic, whose product is Claude. Which AI do you use? It's Perplexity, is it?
Oh, I use 3 of them for various different reasons. ChatGPT is a very good general AI. Perplexity is excellent if you want to know anything that's going on now because it's connected to the internet and gives all its sources. And Claude, I have found to be very good for writing and more creative endeavors.
Okay.
They're the 3 main ones. I've played around with LeChat, I've played around with DeepSeek, and and of course, you know, the funny thing, I've played around with Google, and I've played around with Copilot with Microsoft. And I think, whatever.
Yeah,
but they're my 3. They're my 3.
Well, but bearing in mind that LeChat is the European alternative, what do you make of it?
Don't care. It's an also ran, and it's anybody who launches a new product or whatever. ChatGPT were the first ones to the market, so they're kind of the kings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Perplexity, not as many people know it because I do mention it, and people go, "No, I've never heard of that." So anyway, they're the 3 that I use.
But Dusty,
yes, go on. Whoops.
Do you grok?
No, I don't. I wouldn't trust a word that man says. Never mind his AI. Elon Musk I'm talking about. Do I grok? Ugh, God.
Well, you know what? That's actually a really interesting point. if somebody was to go ask Grok and Elon Musk wanted to just maybe steer
Yeah,
the narrative a little
yeah.
bit in his direction, do you think, he might have a keyword that gets referred to as his laptop and he's like, "Do you know what? Let's just say this." Yup. There I'm all about tinfoils the tinfoil hat this week.
You're hanging around with me too much. Is that what it is?
I
Is
think
it?
so.
Anyway, listen, let's get back to Anthropic because they are
Mm.
the people behind Claude.ai, and they're bringing 100 new jobs to Ireland. The reason being that they're expanding their operations across Europe. I
Mm.
don't know whether that's a good thing for American companies to start doing, but anyways,
Well, well, I mean, let's look at it this way. They're hiring 100 people in Dublin and
mm,
100 people in London.
yeah,
So what is going to keep me attached to this story will be the percentage of the workforce and where they're based and what they do.
hmm
Because we are apparently approaching an age of US isolationism. Their plan seems to be, let's bring us all back to the 1950s when every house was affordable and only the man of the house needed to go to work and the woman of the house knew her place. I mean, that's the vision they want. That's what they want. They also don't want you to acknowledge the existence of billionaires who will continue to get incredibly wealthy while this sort of antiquated American dream plays out for everybody else. One would hope. Um, but yeah, if we're moving towards an age of American isolationism, does this mean that we are going to see a version of Claude for the US and one for the rest of the world? Because this is something we are seeing with the sale of TikTok, which is being put on extension again by 75 days, again by the Trump administration. You know what the deal is. TikTok has been ordered to sell its, or rather, ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, has been ordered to sell TikTok, the American wing of it, the American operation, divest themselves of it, or it's getting shut down. Now, this has been ongoing, like this is in law in the States, right? So this has been through an absolute passage. And, Biden gave extensions, Trump has given extensions, and just the deal can't seem to come together. And the reason, apparently, a deal was pretty much done, and the news of the tariffs, the first wave of tariffs, came in
scuppered
and
everything.
scuppered everything. So we're kind of back to the drawing board on this. But
Mm.
if TikTok US is sold, does that mean that the user experience and the content in the US is different to the rest of the world?
Well,
And
yeah. Go on.
is
Sorry.
this something we're going to have to get used to or make our peace with? Are certain services just not going to be available to us in Europe?
I hadn't thought of that, and I don't know why you're talking about in the future because all of this has already happened. And that you've got Meta and Microsoft and the AIs that they're trying to push out. They delay the launch of these things into the EU because they're not able to fully comply with the various acts that they have to within the EU. So the rest of the world is getting one version and the EU is kind of getting down a down version. So it's entirely possible, as you say, that the US will have its own version of TikTok and then the rest of the world will have its own version of TikTok. But then when you say that as well, it's kind of like, when you are using any computer, like I mean, and I'm saying like if you're looking at social media or you're looking at YouTube or whatever, it will give you content and advertising based on the location of the device. Do you know what I mean? So you will see more probably European videos when you're based in Europe rather than what you would see if you were in the States. And that's on the content side of things. I mean, the advertising, they're well pat. So that's kind of that's it. I hadn't thought about that. Anyway, listen, I want to get back to, we're digressing. I want to get back to Claude, I love it. .ai, 100 new jobs here. One of the big customers in Ireland is Intercom, which is a very interesting and a very big company at this stage as well. They do a lot of consumer experience and consumer relationships kind of handling, all right? And a lot of what they do is when you go to a website now and it's like chat with us. okay, and you open up the chat, you're talking to a bot. And I'm 50-50 on whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing. Because I think it's a good thing in that the chances are that the AI will get you sorted with whatever your query is quicker. All right. But I think a human being would probably handle it better because the human being is more used to dealing with all of those little details that go into what a complaint is or what a job needs to be done or whatever it happens to be. Whereas an AI, because it's a computer, can literally only follow the system. And if it falls inside the system, it's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
How do you feel about that?
the AI is only useful up to a point. You know, once you sort of get out of it, I mean, with agentic AI, we're seeing that sort of
Yeah.
bar being raised in terms of usefulness. But very often, an awful lot of bots are very basic FAQ stuff, and anything beyond that gets, you know, moved up.
I think they are getting better. I had a really interesting because I'm really annoyed with this with WhatsApp. You see, the Meta AI is now built into WhatsApp.
Mm.
And it's just sitting there like an annoying little git. So I asked the Meta AI, how do I turn off Meta AI in WhatsApp? And it gave me the instructions to turn off, disable, or blah, 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 blah. And I followed those instructions and they weren't there. So I went, the answer is not correct. I said, specifically, how do I turn off, disable, or delete Meta AI from WhatsApp and on an Android phone? And I went, to turn off, or do you do this, this, and this, and this? Okay. And then I went, I said, that is not working. I said, how is it true, based on the results and the answer it gave me? It said, how is it true that Meta AI is an optional feature if there is no direct option to completely turn it off or disable it in WhatsApp, right? And it came back with, that's a valid point. There is no
Sorry.
direct option to turn.
Sir, I cannot tell a lie.
Something like that, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I just like, it's interesting when you're talking to a computer or a program because it has to be kind of logical to a certain way. And it was more playing with my own brain as into, well, can I come up with the right logical question in order for it to answer in that way? And I eventually did. Anyway, that's just me being tin hatting at the weekend for absolutely no reason.
We're having a good week for this stuff, aren't we?
Stop! I'll tell you. But yeah. So I kind of like the fact that there's no humans involved when you want to get things done with a company. If it's a various query, or it's kind of, do you know what I love AI for is that you can upload a manual for whatever it is into an AI, and then you can ask it questions about that manual for a particular software program or something it is that you're working on, your car manual or something like that. Do you know what I mean? How do I change the battery in the radio of the car or whatever? Don't ask me anything about cars, but anyways. Anyway, that is Anthropic, and thank you and welcome to Ireland and bringing 100 new jobs with us. Speaking of AI, ChatGPT, the new image generator, it's really good.
Yeah, ChatGPT 4.0. I mean, it was one of the touted features that, you know, we're giving you awesome images, and it's kind of a testament to human ingenuity that, like, people will find ways to turn a perfectly good technology just to really mess it up for everyone. You know,
and use it for nefarious reasons.
Use it for evil instead of good.
Yeah.
And apparently, people have been using 4.0's image generator for something that we wouldn't have thought of, but apparently it's really, really good at. 4.0 is very good at faking receipts and prescriptions. So if you have an issue with your expenses one month, you think something is unvouched, well, just get ChatGPT to sort that out for you. That'll be okay. However, if you're feeling a little bit down and you know something that will pep you up and it's not glucose tablets, well, it can sort you out with that as well.
That's unreal. That is unreal. You've reminded me of that. I saw that a few days ago, and the receipts are brilliant. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. But the receipts are brilliant. It's like, well, I can generate a receipt for that, and it looks like it's a perfectly acceptable till receipt. The only thing is that it wouldn't necessarily have like a company number or a VAT number or something like that on it.
Mm,
And if it is, it'll be fake. And if
yeah.
it's fake, then, but then, of course, what you do then is you say to I'm thinking it out now, you go to ChatGPT and you go, here is a till receipt from X restaurant, okay? Their VAT number is and their company number is. I want you to keep all of those details correct, but create me a till receipt for a meal for 2 people, which cost all right.
Mm,
And then
mm,
I'm kind of thinking, yeah, you could do, you could have 4 people out for dinner, okay, for business, or 6 people out for dinner for business, or you
mm.
could have 6 people out for dinner, for personal reasons, all right, but put it through as a meal for 2 for business reasons, and adjust the, sorry.
No,
Thanks for
no.
that. I'm gonna file that on the tip of the week. Listen, finally this week we have a big birthday to celebrate this month.
Yeah, Microsoft celebrated 50 years in existence on the 4th of April. So just this day last week. And what better way to celebrate a milestone in a company's history than to fire a bunch of people?
Yay!
And apparently that's what Microsoft is gearing up to do. Uh, According to a report in Business Insider, we have an unspecified number of employees going to be sacked in May. And for as far as we know, these are going to be in management and poor performing individuals. So they're not looking to get rid of coders, which is probably great news for coders because, it's a good jobs market for coders anyway. If that's your skill, you're not going to be out of a job for very long. So the idea that, okay, we need a bit more, inverted commas, efficiency. Let's start getting rid of our vice presidents, some middle managers, some guys that maybe aren't that are costing us more than they're bringing in. So maybe time to get rid of more of those guys. This is kind of interesting. This is sort of the post-COVID, holy heck, we had a good time of it, and now all these new customers that we brought in, that cycle is gone, you know? Um, so we've got to find a way to cut our cloth to suit what we are making now. And that meant that all the major tech firms had to let people go. Because, they went from a period of everybody is remote working, everyone is a new customer, everyone is getting a deal, to that pipeline of new customers has dried up because everybody has what they want, right? So what do? Well, we've got to start letting people go, unfortunately. And this mindset seems to have stuck around with big tech, that it's been sort of, oh, we can actually let people go without affecting our operation in general. So, okay, why don't we just keep this mindset and focus on areas where maybe we can afford to have a bit more churn than we do? And maybe we want to hang on to people in positions, even if they're not very good at them, because we don't want our competitors to get them, which would be a good reason for hanging on to their coders. I don't know, Dusty. How would you celebrate 50 years in business?
Well, I wouldn't be doing it by letting go a whole load of people to work for me. That's for sure. But from what you're saying, it sounds like it's a little bit like Elon Musk's Doge project, except this is DOME, Department of Microsoft Efficiency, huh? There we go. Right.
Well, they're not the only company doing it, but I do think it's funny that 50 years in business, you're out of a job.
Well, there you go. And it won't be the first nor the last, that's for sure. Listen, Niall, thanks for keeping us up to date with all that's been going on in the news this week.